Welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're tackling the Mind Map book by Tony Buzan. A listener sent this one in, and I gotta say, even just glancing through it, it's got me looking at note-taking in a whole new light.
Yeah, it really makes you question those old linear notes, doesn't it?
Totally. So the big idea here is radiant thinking. I'm kind of getting a superhero vibe from the name, but what's the actual concept?
Well, it's about breaking free from, the limitations of linear thinking.
Okay, break it down for me. What does that even mean, like in a practical sense?
So picture this. Linear thinking. It's like a single beam of light, very focused, going in one direction.
Okay, with you.
Radiant thinking. More like an explosion of light going everywhere, connecting all these different ideas.
I like the sound of that. Lots of light bulbs going off. And that's where mind mapping comes in, right?
Exactly. It's the tool that helps us achieve that kind of expansive thinking.
So less like a neat and tidy list, more like fireworks,
Yeah.
a brain sparkler maybe.
More like a web, a network of thoughts. See, Buzan's argument is that our brains are wired for connections. Every time we have a thought, it creates a pathway. And the more we revisit that thought, the stronger that pathway gets.
In consents.
Mind maps use keywords, images, colors, all these things to build a network of those pathways. It's like creating superhighways for information in our brains.
Instead of a one-lane back road with all those linear notes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal. But can mind maps really deliver on all the hype? I mean, the book claims they can enhance memory, boost creativity, even help us solve problems better. Hold on. Enhance memory. I'm all ears on that one. How does a mind map do that exactly?
Well, think about how you remember things. Have you ever tried memorizing a list of words?
Oh, yeah. Painful.
Right. But if you associate those words with vivid images, suddenly it becomes so much easier to recall them.
Ah, like those mnemonic tricks. I use those all the time back in school. Every good boy deserves fudge for the musical notes, right?
Exactly. Mind maps tap into that same power of visual memory. In fact, there's this study mentioned in the book where people could remember thousands of images with almost perfect accuracy.
Thousands. That's incredible. But hold on, aren't words important too? I mean, we can't just think in pictures all the time, can we?
Oh, absolutely. Words are crucial. Mind maps use keywords, colors, even the spatial relationships between elements to create a richer, multi-sensory experience. It's not just visual, it's a whole brain workout.
Gotcha. It's like engaging all the senses to make those memories stick. You know, it's funny, this emphasis on visual thinking makes me think of cave paintings. Like, that was our ancestors' way of communicating, right? Before written language.
That's a really interesting connection, and Buzan actually touches on that in the book. He argues that externalizing thoughts through images and symbols was a huge leap forward for human communication. And in a way, mind mapping is like tapping into that ancient way of thinking.
So we're coming full circle, back to our roots, but with a modern twist. I like it. But, okay, let's get practical here. How do I actually create a mind map? What are the steps involved? But wait, before we get all how-to, I'm curious about Tony Buzan himself. The book mentions he actually came up with mind mapping while he was a student. What's the story there?
Well, the story goes that he was really struggling with traditional note-taking, all those linear notes. He felt overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information he had to process,
So he was basically like, there has to be a better way. And then, boom, mind maps.
basically. And his frustration ended up leading to a tool that's now helped millions of people around the world to think more effectively. But okay, back to the how-to. As I was saying, you start with a central image that represents your main idea.
Okay, so let's say I'm reading a chapter about, oh, I don't know, the history of flight. Would my central image be like a plane?
A plane, hot air balloon, anything that captures that central idea.
Okay, cool. So then what? Do I just draw lines and arrows coming out of it like some kind of thought explosion?
Not quite that dramatic, but you're on the right track. So you draw branches outward from that central image, each branch representing a key subtopic.
So for the history of flight, I might have branches for like early experiments, the Wright brothers, jet engines.
Exactly. And then from those branches, you can add more details, key dates, inventors' names, whatever's relevant.
And I don't have to write out full sentences, just keywords and images.
Exactly. Keep it concise, keep it visually engaging. You can even use different colors for each branch, add little doodles or symbols, whatever helps you make sense of the information.
This is really starting to click for me. It's like so much more active than just highlighting or taking linear notes.
Exactly. And Buzan emphasizes that the process of creating the mind map is a form of active learning. You're engaging with the information, organizing it in a way that makes sense to you.
It's like I'm building my own little map of the information, one that I can easily navigate and remember later on.
That's a great way to put it. And the cool thing is, the mind map book encourages you to use mind maps for way more than just note-taking.
Really? Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, Buzan talks about using them for brainstorming, planning projects, making decisions, even exploring your own goals and values.
Wow, so it's not just a study tool, it's a life tool.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued, but I have to admit I'm still a little fuzzy on the nuts and bolts of how it all works. Like, let's say I'm actually sitting down to create a mind map. Where do I even begin?
Well, it all starts with those 4 key principles that Buzan calls the laws of mind mapping.
Laws. That sounds serious. So what's the first law of mind mapping?
The first law is all about emphasis, making the central idea, the key branches, really stand out visually.
So using things like size and color to make them pop, right? Like, hey, brain, pay attention to this.
Exactly. You're guiding your eye and your brain to the most important information.
Okay, makes sense. What's the second law?
That would be association, connecting those ideas, those concepts, using branches, arrows, any kind of visual cue you can think of. It's like building bridges between the different parts of your mind map.
So it's not just a jumble of random thoughts, but everything's linked together in a way that, like, actually makes sense.
Exactly. And then we've got the third law, clarity.
Clarity, okay.
This is where it gets really important. You got to use clear images, concise keywords, and whatever you do, avoid clutter.
Keep it clean, keep it simple.
Your mind map should be easy on the eyes, easy to understand. You don't want a jumbled mess, right?
Like, I could definitely see how it'd be easy to get carried away and end up with a mind map that's more confusing than helpful.
Oh yeah, it definitely happens. But if you stay focused on clarity, your mind map stays a powerful tool for understanding and exploring information.
Got it. 3 laws down, 1 to go. Hit me with that final law of mind mapping.
This one's all about personal style. Buzan really encourages you to use your own preferred colors, images, symbols. Make it your own.
So it's not about following some rigid set of rules, but about letting my own, like, unique way of thinking shine through.
Precisely. Your mind map should be something you actually enjoy looking at, something you enjoy interacting with, not just some sterile cookie-cutter diagram, you know.
Right. That makes mind mapping way more approachable and honestly more fun.
Fun is key. The more you enjoy the process, the more effective those mind maps will be.
Okay, I'm really starting to get excited about this. I'm picturing all these colorful branches, these images exploding out from the central idea. But okay, let's get real here. I'm reading a chapter in a book. How do I actually turn that into a mind map? Where do I even start?
All right, so imagine the chapter's main theme. That's the heart of your mind map. That's your central image.
Okay, so if the chapter's about, say, the history of flight, I might draw a hot air balloon.
Perfect. Now, think about the key sections, the big ideas within that chapter. Those become your main branches, radiating out from your hot air balloon.
So I might have branches for, like, early experiments, the Wright brothers, jet engines.
You got it. And from each of those branches, you just add more details, key dates, inventors, whatever's important.
And I don't need to write full sentences, right? Just keywords and images.
Keep it concise. Keep it visually engaging. Don't be afraid to use different colors for each branch. Throw in some little sketches or symbols if they help.
This is making so much more sense now. It's way more engaging than just highlighting or taking those linear notes.
And remember, the actual process of creating the mind map, that's a form of active learning in itself. You're not just passively absorbing information, you're really interacting with it, making connections, organizing it in a way that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it's like I'm creating my own personal map of the information, something that I can easily remember and come back to later.
That's the idea. And the mind map book, it encourages you to use these mind maps for so much more than just note-taking.
Really? Like, what else? What other magical things can mind maps do?
Well, Buzan suggests using them for brainstorming, planning projects, making decisions, even for exploring your own personal goals and values.
Wow, so mind maps are like a tool for life.
Absolutely. They help you tap into the full potential of your brain. You can think more creatively, solve problems more effectively, even understand yourself better.
You know, one thing I'm curious about, these aha moments, those times when you suddenly see a connection you hadn't noticed before. Can mind maps actually help with that?
They absolutely can. When you lay out your thoughts and ideas visually, you're basically giving your brain space to make those unexpected connections.
It's like the mind map becomes this playground for your thoughts, letting them bounce around and connect in new and interesting ways.
Exactly. The book even suggests leaving some blank branches in your mind map, almost like an invitation for those aha moments.
Yeah,
It's like leaving a space for your brain to, fill in the gaps later on.
I like that. Leave a little room for the magic to happen.
Oh,
Okay, but I gotta be honest. I'm pretty much a linear thinker by nature. Do you think someone like me can really benefit from mind mapping?
absolutely. In fact, people who are used to linear thinking, they might find mind mapping even more transformative. It's a way to break free from those old habits and explore a whole new way of thinking.
That's good to hear. So where do we go from here? I'm definitely feeling inspired, but I need some more, like, practical guidance on how to actually put all this into practice.
Well, in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore some specific examples of how to use mind maps for, things like problem solving, decision making, even personal growth.
Sounds good. Can't wait to hear more.
No.
Welcome back to our deep dive on mind maps. We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics to the why and the how of it all. Now let's get to the good stuff, practical applications.
I'm excited for this part. Buzan really lays out how versatile mind maps can be for everything from problem solving to, tough decisions.
Okay, let's start with problem solving. How can a mind map actually help me solve a problem, not just make it look pretty?
Think of it like a roadmap for your thoughts. Instead of getting bogged down by the problem, you can break it down into smaller, manageable chunks.
So it's about, like, approaching it strategically, not just getting overwhelmed.
Exactly. The book suggests starting with, a clear definition of the problem, putting that right at the center of your mind map. That's your home base.
Got it. Center of the map. And then do I just, like, throw every thought I have onto the page?
Not exactly random thoughts. From that central problem, you create branches. Each one represents a key factor related to the issue. You might have branches for the causes, the effects, potential obstacles, all that.
So I'm making a visual list of everything involved, almost like a detective gathering clues for a case.
Love that analogy. And as you add those branches, you might start to see patterns emerge, connections that you didn't even realize were there before.
Which could then lead to solutions, right? Where do those fit in on the map?
You can create separate branches for possible solutions, each branching out from the relevant parts of the problem. Then you can explore, the pros and cons of each solution, what might happen, even what steps you'd need to take.
So the map isn't just a static picture. It actually evolves as I explore different options. That's cool.
Exactly. It keeps you engaged with the problem and helps you move towards a solution.
Impressive. Okay, so we've tackled problems. What about decisions? The tough ones. Can mind maps help with those?
Similar idea. But instead of a problem at the center, you put the decision itself. Then you create branches for every option you're considering, weighing the pros and cons, the potential outcomes, all visually.
So it's like I'm holding all the factors in my mind, but in a way that's actually clear.
That's the beauty of it. No more flipping back and forth between notes or getting lost in paragraphs of text. It's all right there in front of you.
I could see how this could be really helpful for those big life decisions like careers or even relationships. It's like weighing your options, but in a more visual, intuitive way.
And the book even suggests, using things like color coding or assigning numbers to prioritize different factors makes the decision-making process even more structured.
Smart. Okay, now beyond the practical stuff, Buzan also mentions using mind maps for personal growth. I have to admit, that one's a bit more out there for me.
I get it. But imagine creating a mind map of your own life,
Yeah.
At the center, you'd put my life or my values, something like that. Then branch out to explore your goals, your fears, your strengths, everything that makes you, well, you.
It's actually pretty cool. It's like a visual representation of my inner world.
Exactly. And as you build that map, you might see patterns, connections about yourself that you hadn't noticed before.
It's like holding a mirror up to your own mind. And that self-awareness could lead to real growth.
That's the whole point. Buzan even suggests using mind maps for things like setting goals, making action plans, tracking your progress, all that.
So it's not just about organizing information. It's about organizing yourself.
That's a great way to put it. It's about becoming the architect of your own life, using this tool to shape your thoughts and your actions.
This whole deep dive has been mind-blowing. I'm definitely sold on the power of mind maps. But I do have one last question. If it's this effective, why isn't it taught more widely? Why aren't we all using mind maps already?
Honestly, that's a great question. Maybe it's because we're so used to, that linear way of thinking, we've forgotten the power of a more visual, connected approach.
It's like we've been holding ourselves back. But after this deep dive, I'm ready to embrace this new way of thinking.
That's great to hear. Anyone can benefit from mind mapping. It's not about being an artist or, a tech whiz. It's about tapping into the natural power of your brain.
Well said. Well, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining me and sharing your insights on mind mapping.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the mind map book, it's just the beginning. Now it's your turn to start creating your own mind maps, exploring your ideas, and unlocking your own potential.
I can't wait. And to all of you listening out there, we encourage you to do the same. Experiment, have fun, and see where this amazing technique takes you. Until next time, keep those mind maps flowing.